I worked as a professional foreigner in China, and the job is even stranger than it sounds. With billions of people on the planet, there's a job for everything. Face feelers and dog food testers, professional mourners, armpit smellers, the list is endless. Although I didn't sniff armpits for a living, my job title was just as strange. I worked as a professional foreigner. China's economy has grown massively over the years, and they are always looking for foreign investors, but they also want to attract non-nationals to work in their ever-growing tech industry, and that is where I come. My job as a professional foreigner is to look like a foreign professional. I am foreign and a professional, but you can think of me as an actor. I get paid to attend board meetings for companies I don't work for. This is when the board meeting is showcasing their company to foreign investors, and I'm the token white guy that made it up the ladder in the company. I appear in a lot of corporate videos for different companies to smile while I sit by a computer and look like a productive member of the workforce. I get hired to go to corporate dinners and parties to make new foreigners feel comfortable when they are new to a company. The list of duties as a professional foreigner is endless. My tools consist of an empty briefcase, a laptop I use for checking my emails for job notifications, and a suit. I loved my job until my title as a professional foreigner started to get a bit extreme. China isn't known for high standards of ethics in the workforce, and for most Chinese and foreign workers, the work can be a miserable and grueling existence. Long hours and low pay can cause low morale within companies, which makes people less productive. For my next gig, I was hired to be an executive working high up for a tech company. When I arrived with my empty briefcase and laptop, they brought me to a large room which was filled with many Chinese and American workers that all looked like they hadn't slept in weeks. They brought me up onto a stage. At first, I thought I was going to give a motivational speech. As I stood there, the CEO of the company arrived on stage with two large-looking men. At first, they started shouting at me in Chinese, calling me lazy and stupid. I mean, the gig paid well, but when the large men pulled out sticks, I thought, I didn't sign up for this. They began beating me in front of a terrified crowd and were told this was going to happen to them if they didn't start meeting their quotas. After beating me relentlessly for 15 minutes, they fake-fired me and dragged me off stage to add to the dramatics. I didn't doubt that the theatrics worked, but for me, it was a terrifying ordeal. For a moment, I genuinely thought they would beat me to death. A few days passed before I got an email for another job. The company was vague in its description, and all I had to go on was its name, Humane Biotech. When I arrived at the building, I had to check twice that I was at the right location. The rundown office block didn't scream tech, and resembled more of a sweatshop. The first thing that hit me when I walked in the doors was the smell. It was a mix of chemicals, with the staleness of rotten wood. I walked down a narrow, dimly lit corridor that seemed to stretch endlessly, the walls lined with rows of cubicles, packed with people hunched over computers. The room buzzed with the hum of machines and the low murmur of voices, but there was an eerie tension in the air. I finally reached a small office, where a man in a wrinkled suit greeted me with a forced smile. He didn't look me in the eyes as he handed me a contract. I skimmed through it, but the terms were vague, and the pay was unusually high. Something about this didn't feel right. I was shown to a glass-walled room overlooking the main work area. My role, I was told, was to sit there and observe, with no interaction with the workers and no involvement in the operations, just sit and be seen. As I sat there with my empty briefcase and powered-down laptop, I watched the workers below me. Their faces were gaunt, their eyes hollow. It became clear that they weren't just overworked. They were terrified. Now and then I noticed one of them glance up at me with a mix of hope and desperation. As I sat there, the man in the wrinkled suit came back and asked me to follow him. We walked up a flight of stairs to the second floor and past an office filled with ringing telephones that went unanswered. He brought me to another office and sat me down at a table and handed me a load of documents and a pen. "You sign these. You are a company executive," he demanded. I climbed onto the closed toilet lid and looked out the window to spot 4 kids near the edge of the forest. One of them I immediately recognized to be the youngest, and they were huddled close together, stealing glances to each other every now and then while facing my house. This unnerved me a bit for some reason, even though I wanted to believe these kids must have been commenting on my family house and whatnot. On the other end, something told me these kids were talking about me and that they could see me looking back at them. I left the bathroom and decided to shrug off the incident. 3 days later, I was doing my usual exercising to lose some weight, and the sun was burning rather intensely. I retreated back into the family house to continue exercising there, and when I finished exercising, I went to my bedroom. My eyes accidentally locked onto my bedroom window, and I got that same nagging feeling to look out the window, that somebody was out there. My body slowly crept towards the window. As I leaned down and looked carefully through the blind, there, I saw the kids again. What unsettled me this time was they were closer to the family house and not at the edge of the forest anymore. All 4 of them stood next to each other, facing. I don't really remember. I couldn't tell if they were facing my family house or my window specifically, but their gazes were haunting and intense, as if they were expecting something to happen. They stood next to each other, still like soldiers awaiting for a commander to bark orders at them. That night, I brought up the concern with the kids' bizarre behavior to my parents, and they laughed it off. I remember them telling me to relax, that they are just kids, and are probably toying around with me, and I should just let it go. The third encounter with the kids was the most frightening one I've ever had, and that was yesterday at 2 in the morning. That day, I was exhausted